Yes, Brickies fans, it's me, Michael Brownie. Unfortunately, that's it. Tuesday night is over, the season's over, and now we get to decompress, and try and pick the bones out of it. What can you really say? I've just done the highlights myself, and I've watched the game a few times. It was an end-to-end game for maybe the first 20 minutes. Both teams going at it, giving the opportunities. Just before they score, you think Derek's just about to chip the keeper, and then unfortunately, the chip isn't big enough, and Croydon go up the other end and score. And I think once Croydon got their second goal, the second half was two-stop start. By the time their game got going for us, I think momentum had already shifted in that sense. And yes, we can say about the penalty and it being a poor decision. I've watched it back and I've seen the photos from it as well. And, I'll wholeheartedly agree that it's a penalty. And I think the referee has unfortunately got that one wrong. I wouldn't say anything bad against referees being one myself. It's hard to be a referee, but there are a lot of things he's missing in that game. The first half, the striker is front on with Stevo and Swifty, and he's just holding. He's just two hands out, holding and pulling them along. He's missing things like that. James Dunn in the midfield for Croydon. He's missing every time he goes up. He's pulling a player back by the shirt, and there's a few times in the second half towards the end. Henry Senna gets absolutely walloped into the advertising boards, and the linesman's not flagging for it. I think it just got to the occasion, maybe got to the officials on that evening. But it's a learning curve for those guys. Unless you get put in those positions, next time they get into it, I hope they take the experiences from it. And it's not, we don't go online and batter referees or anything like that. I know, obviously, we retweeted Boshi's one, but it's just Boshi saying we're saying pen or no pen pending. We like to ask those questions. I think there was a very bit of a heated discussion online about a referee who, a gentleman had a referee's badge on it saying, if a club uses social media. As a referee myself, if someone does that and they ask the question, I think that's fine. I think when it comes to a decision of we think it's a pen, the referee's FYZ diabolical. Those when sometimes you're crossing lines. I know what Boshi said, but we don't reflect that. We obviously just ask the questions. But I think as well, it's at a point in the game where I think maybe you could have probably grabbed an equaliser, but I think momentum might have shifted a little bit. How quick can you score another one? I think maybe the referee was just thinking about getting out of there, to be honest. But it goes to penalties. Good luck to Croydon. Good luck to AFC Whiteleaf. I think everyone was sort of trying to pin their hat on hopefully going to Jersey on a Friday, having a good weekend there. But it's not to be. And hopefully we'll see Jersey next year, and we'll definitely see one of those two teams in the final next year. And it's time to rebuild. You gotta think about it, and you gotta lick your wounds and try again. Third time lucky wasn't the time. So fourth year in a row, but the division will be massively different next year. You're going to have Herne Bay throwing money at it. You're going to have Whitstable in the league, and they've got a bit of money to toss around. And whoever comes up from the other leagues, out of Croydon and Whiteleaf, who stay in, they'll be licking their lips. Being teams that are in form all year. You've got Jersey, who are a powerhouse in themselves, and Faversham down the road, their owner Gary Smart is not going to be a guy that wants to languish in mid-table, and then obviously you've got Margate, who are absolutely pinging to get out of the bit. Ashford, who ended the season in fantastic form. So the division will be even harder next year, and there will definitely be movement. Teams like Cray Valley are coming down as well, so you're gonna see teams like that in the division who have been at the level before and probably need to find their feet again, or will they go back in momentum? So for the off season for the Brickies will be down to Reese and some of the board members and how they look at it. From a personal point of view, maybe reinforcing some of that midfield. Someone like Harrison Pont I know Ponty's dad is part of the club as well, but Harrison Pont from Faversham, ball-winning midfielder, got an absolute rocket on him. Or, a bit of a maverick like Sam Hasler, who, is at Ashford, but picks up the ball, can wallop one, delivers free kicks, has got a bit of a reputation, though, for a bit of cards. And sometimes you need that fieriness in you, And obviously next year, whoever stays at the club, we massively want to give them our backing. Some of the boys who you might not see next year, they'll go on to they'll go on to either bigger and better things, or they're either going to go on and do something somewhere else. But whoever's been a Bricky this year, shout out to those guys. I know that we're just around the corner from the Players Awards, which are free. You can log on and get a free ticket for the night. There's over 100 of you there already. Men's and women's teams will be there on the evening, and got to keep some of that nucleus and maybe reinforce in some areas, but it's just about momentum as well. When the fixtures come out, how does your fixture to the final days come out? There'll be some teams next year who will not be at it, and there'll be other teams joining us as well. At the minute, you've got Rustle or Punjab, which will be joining us, and for me personally, I hope to see Punjab. Really good team, really good people, really nice ground for those who haven't been. And now you've got to decompact the season. I wasn't with the club at the start, but I know that it was up and down with Maxi, and the turnover was different. But also you've got to remember that how it worked at the beginning of the club is, players were pulled apart as well. Some players went to Ramsgate, some players went to other places. I know Boshi came back at one point as well. And I think this year it will be a little bit different like that. Get in there early, get those retained players in early, identify the targets, start a pre-season. I don't know much about that right now, even though I'm on the social media side of it. And, it's just a sort of a communication thing, really. For you fans, is the minute I know is the minute we'll get stuff posted, especially with season tickets. Do we know anything about that right now? And it's just all a process over the next few weeks. We'll be obviously putting things like that out and hoping to see you all return. And next year, hopefully I will be returning with Daisy, and we can definitely push on and keep our social media in the way it should, and attract players with that, and attract fans. All players that do go somewhere, they do want a club that's got some good socials and very interactive, and they can give them the platform to express themselves. And as the season, like we said, it started out mixed mash, and Maxi went on to Welling. And he's kept them up. He's done obviously the job he's done there, and I think from being an outsider who's come in, the club was a bit split down the middle with Maxi, and that's not a bad thing. Maybe his time had come to an end with the club, or maybe he had disagreements with people. I don't know. I don't know any ins and outs. I don't know the full extent of it, and I was definitely a case at the other club about why I left. So when I came in, though, the club were in full swing of a new management, and the momentum was there. And to go from 12th to making the playoffs, it took to the last day, but it was more or less cemented weeks before that. And to see the group of players they've got there, really good core of players that want to move on. And I think you can count the season as a part success and say that being in the playoffs with some dominant teams, I had the very lucky experience of meeting all of the Croydon boys early doors in early August, because they train across the road from me, and I saw his squad, and I think people were counting them out. And fair play. I know the manager thought he was going to blitz the league, but he hasn't. But that's football sometimes. You're all the confidence in the world. And at one point they probably could have. And no, I think Three Bridges were a bit of an unfamiliar surroundings. I think they probably wanted to go playoffs again and push, but they've beaten the teams they have. And for us at Sittingbourne, it's been too many draws. I think I looked at the league table the other day, 10 draws. You've got to get some of those down. Only 9 losses, so the losses were few and far between. But I think when we went on a run, it was like 2 or 3 losses in a row, wasn't it? And then obviously losing to teams like Ashford, and losing to teams like AFC Whiteleaf. You take out those and take out some of those draws against teams like Sheppey or Faversham when we were in control. It moves you up the table, but it's not going to win you the league. So it's just time now to revamp, rethink. The players have all worked hard. I know that they're going to have some time to themselves, and hopefully we'll see them all soon and get to enjoy one last night with them. And then the plans will happen, and we'll make sure you guys are involved every step of the way. I'm going to hand you over to my guests for this podcast, and hopefully they give an account. And I love that you guys are involved in this pod. Since this pod has started, and ever since I've joined the club, and especially Daisy said it as well. Like, you guys have been more than welcoming. I know on Tuesday night when you're all walking past me, you're saying hello to me and well done, and we love this and we like that. And just want to keep giving you guys what I can, and hopefully sooner rather than later we will make massive announcements. Up the Brickies!
Afternoon, mate. Just thought I'd give you my thoughts on yesterday's game. Start with the positives. Just like to say thank you for Gibber for sorting out the coach at such a short notice. Me and my boy, 7 years old, Alfie, managed to get a couple of spaces on there. And just like to thank everyone for being so good with him, my boy, and including him in everything, talking to him about the football. And yeah, it was really nice. It just shows what the club can offer, and how good the fans really are. And that's not my only point on the fans, but that was a real nice touch, and I'd just like to thank Gibber for that and everyone that was on the coach. Another thing regarding the fans, on the way out, obviously not the result we wanted, but I had multiple of the more mature Croydon fans stop me and say, you deserve to go up, just because of how you are as fans. And I totally agree. Now, I've not been to many away games this season, unfortunately, just due to other football commitments. But they said there was over 700 people there last night. Well, there was more than half of those were Brickies, and I felt in the second half the noise level just went up by about 10 decibels. I'm not saying in the first half it wasn't loud, but the second half you noticed it was so much louder, and I think that really helped the performance as well. So, me included, if we can get that sort of commitment to more games next season away, home and away really, but I mean the gate has been better this year, home games, but away games as well, I can't see why with that, because we do it, the fans have a real impact on the team. You see that last night, which was just how different they were in the second half. So yeah, I just think that if we can take that into next season as well and try and have a real push to get as many people through the gate, whether it be home or away, there'll be a few good away trips next year, which will be good. Their goalkeeper Dan Coleman is actually a relative of mine, so it'll be interesting to go and watch him play with the ball. But yeah, so that's brought another positive regarding the fans. Now onto the game, really, I felt we started well. I'd say it was weird. I'd say we started slowly, but we also had more of the ball. I mean, I've never been involved in a game where the ref's been tumbled over or he's hit him and he hasn't stopped the game for a drop ball. Now that was the first thing I questioned. And I know, like, we feel like we're trying to find excuses, but I just think I've played football for 20 years, if not more, and I've never, when the ref's been hit or tumbled over or whatever, like the ball hit him, I'm sure it did anyway. It always stops the game, brings it back. Now, like I said, people might say I'm clutching at straws there, but I feel like the officiating was the worst I've seen this season, like hands down. Whether it be my son's under-7 football or Sheppey Sunday League, or like, that was terrible last night. No backbone, and everything that happened at the end was because it came from the officiating, because they're not getting control of the game. Even to the point that when everything kicked off afterwards, they all just walked off. The officials all just walked off and left them on the pitch. Now, surely, I know the 90 minutes is up, but how many times do you see cards given after the 90 minutes? Yeah, so there was that. I also feel like we needed more legs in midfield. Needed a few more people that are willing to do the hard graft. We're very much, I felt like it was very much a luxury of on the ball last night. We was good, but off the ball, we struggled to retain, like get it back, sort of thing. Same again. These are all just my opinions. Everyone will have different opinions, but I feel like that's how I felt. And we kept chucking it up to a centre half that didn't lose a header all night. Like, literally, that centre half, he didn't lose a header all night. I mean, and apart from the first fumble the keeper made where Derek almost scored, he came out and caught everything. And then they put us on a turnover because his kick was so long. So just little things like that, little details that I noticed. But at the end of the day, like we played well, we got there, we got to a position where we was in the playoff semi-final, and we just wasn't the better team on the night. I'm adamant if we keep a core of the squad that next year we won't need the playoffs and we'll just go we'll win it all, which would be nice because it's 3 years on the trot now that I've watched it, and it's not gone our way, unfortunately. So yeah, like really, really, really impressed with how the team were after the game and how they all stuck together, albeit in poor circumstances. How they all stuck together and won, and then they still made the effort to come around and speak to all the fans. Like really late night for my little boy, real late night, and he woke up this morning, got into school absolutely buzzing because all the players made a point of coming and giving him a high five or shaking his hand. So really appreciate that as well. But yeah, I'm just as I'm talking, more things are coming to me. But you know, as much as he's gone now, a player like I think his name's Eamon, like he was like a little gnat. He's just getting people's faces and winding people up. So that's the sort of player we missed last night. There was too much of the trying to do the fancy stuff, and I think Joe and Henry made a real big impact when they came on. I'd like to have seen them come on at half time personally, but maybe they wasn't fit enough for that. But they made a real difference when they came on. Yeah, really interested to see how the squad look going into next season, because I genuinely believe that keeping the majority of that squad together, they're a real title push, especially with Reece from the beginning of the year. Yeah, so that was my thoughts in it last night. I probably have got more as I go along, but for now, that's just off the top of my head. But yeah, thanks. Cheers. Up the brickies. Oh yeah, I'd also like to add, as much as he did a good job putting all the coaching and everything together last minute, he also did a cracking job in butchering a load of top hits on the way back for an hour and a half straight. Very, very, very lucky my ears weren't bleeding by the time I was sitting with that coach. But yeah, he did well.
Good evening, Brookies. Oh, that was a tough one to take last night against Croydon. I don't know where to begin really. It's just such a difficult game. That's the fourth time we've played them this season, and every time we play them, they're just good at nullifying the game at certain points of the game as well. Just as you're getting a bit of momentum, they go down with an injury or whatever, they're good at it. And on one hand, I'm thinking, oh, yeah, we paid more attention to their game than going out and playing our own game. But that pitch was absolutely awful. It was rock solid. There was barely any grass on it, covered in sand. You could see when we tried to play the ball along the ground, it was bobbly. Yeah, I walked on the pitch because I was doing the kit and putting out the water bottles and the balls and stuff, and it was just awful. It was really just awful to walk on. I mean, I understand both teams had to play on it. That's obvious, but it obviously didn't suit our style of play. And it suited the home side who play on it every week. And that is with the sprinklers being on all afternoon. That I dread to imagine how difficult it would have been on without the sprinklers on. But yeah, it's a tough one to take. Credit to Croydon, they had a game plan and to a man, they stuck to it, nullified us. I can't remember us having more than 2 shots on target, but yeah, it's the third season in a row in the playoffs, and every single person would have bit your hands off if you said in November you're going to finish fifth and you're going to qualify for the playoffs. We would have definitely taken that. So, I mean, credit to the management and the players for getting us into the playoffs after a difficult run in October and November. Difficult January as well. A couple of difficult injuries. Injury to Joe Boshi and injury to the goalkeepers as well. So yeah, on paper, brilliant season again, but just disappointing to have gone out. Um, so yeah, we move on next season, and hopefully we can do it again. But I just also want to give a couple of mentions. Firstly, to Andrew Marjoram for everything he does for the club. It's just non-stop. He's got his own business. I think maybe a couple of businesses actually. He's got a couple of young kids. He's been through a lot the past couple of years, and I mean, any other person would have taken a step back, but he hasn't. I don't know where he gets his energy from. I want to know what he has for dinner or for breakfast because God, his energy levels is brilliant. I don't know how he juggles everything. So shout out to Marge for everything he does for the club. Shout out to Shane, the groundsman. Um, I've known him a few years now, and um, he does an excellent job on the pitch. But he's also grown into a brilliant young man. Um, he's got a lovely girlfriend, a lovely um, young boy called Freddie. So yeah, he's matured into a lovely young man. So shout out to Shane. Um, Eileen on a Tuesday and Friday for cleaning the changing rooms and having to deal with little surprises in the toilet now and again in the away changing room. We've had a couple of them this season. um, and brilliant tea making for us on a Tuesday and Friday. Shout out to John. Um, he even when he was in Australia and stranded out in Dubai, he was always giving us feedback on the floodlights, trying to help us get the floodlights down and pass the lux test and everything. Shout out to the kit men, especially Aaron. Um, I believe he's been working at the club for 25 years or so now, maybe longer. So shout out to Aaron. Um, Shout out to Jimmy. Um, he's he had a stroke last year, if I remember correctly, last year. And he's slowly getting back to himself. He's still helping out on a match day, occasionally coming down on a Tuesday and Friday morning to help out. Shout out to Paul as well. Um, he's always there at the crack of dawn to clear up the rubbish and empty the bins before anyone even turns up. So credit to Paul, um, the unsung, um, the unappreciated jobs there, clearing up all the rubbish and the the bins that absolutely stink. Um, Shout out to, I mean, I'm gonna miss out so many people here, but shout out to every single person that helps out shout out to all the fans that have been coming for absolute decades. Volunteers who are retired and should be living an easy life, but instead give their time to the club. They certainly aren't taking it easy with all the work they do at the ground and on a match day. Credit to everyone for helping keep the club up to league standards and so on. And hopefully we will see all of you guys at the awards ceremony, the awards presentation evening on the 23rd of May. Tickets are free, but if you can book your ticket online, so obviously the club know who's coming and whatnot. And also a shout out to Woodstock. Most people know that obviously Sittingbourne and Woodstock are separate, but that doesn't take away from the fact that not only have Woodstock got to do obviously serve the beers and the burgers and stuff to the fans, but they have to put on food for the volunteers. They have to put on food for the board. They have to sort out the boardroom, teas, the coffees. They've got to serve up hot food for all the players, the coaches, home and away, the boardroom after the game, and the match officials. So credit to them. It's hard work. So yeah, credit to everyone, and hopefully see you for the award ceremony. And we go again next season.
So playoff heartache once again for us at Sittingbourne Football Club. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be third time lucky. Yeah, really, really disappointing because I thought that we'd ended the season well. But congratulations to Croydon. I hope that they go on and win the playoffs. You know, they finished second. I'm always a bit of an advocate for the highest placed team in the final to go up. Unfortunately, it wasn't us when that was our opportunity to do that against Burgess Hill. But I hope that Croydon go on and do it. I think they'd be worthy playoff winners. Overall, this season, it ends for me with a feeling of optimism. It ends with a feeling of pride at what we managed to achieve, kind of against all the odds. We're pretty quick to forget, you know, how far behind we were when Maxwell left and Reece took over. And also, you know, what we'd kind of experienced through last summer with losing so much of the previous team. And, you know, how many players we'd gone through under Maxwell and the revolving door that had been installed on the dressing room. You know, I'll be quite honest, back when Maxwell left, my initial feeling was one of relief and happiness, which is a real shame because, you know, Ryan obviously accomplished a lot at our club and gave us a lot of joy. But towards the end, it was painful. You know, we looked a poor side. We were a poor side, to be perfectly honest with you. We weren't great to watch. You know, but there were some games where, you know, I went to where we conceded in sort of 5 minutes into the second half, and I'd just turn to the person standing next to me and go, well, yep, that's it, we've lost this one, because we just looked so poor at that point of the season. So when Reece came in you know, first game, Crowborough away, just days after Maxwell had gone, you know, there was a lot of uncertainty. We weren't sure which players we were going to lose, who was going to stay, how things were going to pan out. You know, it was a really scrappy first win for Reece. But as we went on game by game, things improved. We started playing some really lovely football. We went through that that remarkable unbeaten run. And then a couple of things I think just sort of conspired against us. The break came at a really bad time for us. You know, that momentum that we'd built sort of just ebbed away from us. And also, a few injuries. It was very early after the restart that we lost Joe Bocci. Joe had come back in under Reece and sort of hit the ground running instantly and had given us that X factor player that we'd kind of missed all season. So yeah, but I look forward to next season now. I'm chomping at the bit for pre-season already. Reece is a much sort of calmer, collected guy, I think, than Maxwell, and I don't see that significant turnover of players. I know Maxwell didn't really have a choice about a lot that he lost from the playoff losing team. But he did have a lot of choice about the players that he brought in, and when you kind of think back, I was looking through some of the players that we'd used, and you go through just the list of forwards, and it's Karim Iziaka, Troy Chiabi, Michael Solarco, the lad from Crowborough that we signed, Rushar. The list just goes on and on and on, and that's without the ones that we'd signed in pre-season that we were told were going to be absolutely fabulous for us. The likes of Reece Grant and Kai Brown and Chris Dixon, that ultimately never kicked a ball for us really in a proper game. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the summer, to seeing where Reece feels that we need to strengthen, because I do feel we need to strengthen a little bit. I think we were a couple of steps behind the real top teams in this division this year, and I think ultimately that's shown in the end. But I think we've got the nucleus of a really, really good side there. I think we've got the basis, and we've got some real quality. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who stays, who goes. I'm hoping that the vast majority stay. I do think there's a couple that we probably do need to move on ourselves now. I think there's a couple of players we've got in and around the squad this season that are flattered to deceive a little bit. That have obviously got undoubted quality, but for whatever reason just couldn't consistently show it or get out there on the pitch, whether that be fitness or form issues. But yeah, proud of what we've done this year. I think to get to the playoffs after the summer we had, after the first few months under Maxwell that we had, after, playing the Saturday, Tuesday like we had to after the enforced weather break, I think we did remarkably. And most of it, pretty much from the point that Reece came in, I've enjoyed thoroughly. I think that the team's bonded really well. They seem like a really nice group of lads. There's a good connection with the fan base. So very proud, very disappointed, but onwards we go. And let's see what the summer brings for us, and hopefully those few weeks whiz round quickly, and we'll all be seeing each other again at the first pre-season friendly. For one, I can't wait. Have a good summer, Brickies, and we'll catch up with you all soon.
Afternoon, Brickies fans. Couple of sleeps now post Tuesday night. Where do you start? Where do we go with that? I mean, Tuesday night was ultimately a bit of disappointment with the result. Actually felt more confident going into it than I had done in previous years. But look, the result was the result. Lots of time now to analyse it over the close season, but on the night we just weren't clinical enough in both boxes. We created the chances, came out the blocks really well, started really strongly, and if we'd have got a goal when we were on top at the beginning, then no doubt it would have been a different story, but we didn't. And yeah, 2 goals. It's a mountain to climb in them situations, but credit to everyone. For on the night, we didn't leave anything out on the pitch, which is at the end of the day all you can ask for. Lots of things about Tuesday night that weren't right. I can't not mention the officials and the standard of the officials. absolutely bottled it. Their first goal, how he's not stopped play when he's a clear obstruction on Luke getting the ball. Then second half, the penalty, everyone in the ground, apart from one individual, can clearly see that it's a penalty. The game was just too big for all four officials. You know, I was near the fourth official. Not going to use some of the words that you can describe him, but it was just too big for the four of them. They weren't up to it, and in key moments, in a tight, what was always going to be a tight game, you needed them to come to the party and to support us, and they didn't. So I'm disappointed for the lads in that respect as well, because you know, wasn't fully justified. You know, certain decisions, if they actually are followed through to the letter of the law, then them key moments could have gone differently. And then you're not chasing 2-0. There's still plenty of time when Bochy gets fouled in the box to go on. It's all ifs and buts and maybes, but you know, I think there's a lot of positives that you can take from Tuesday night, and positives as a whole. You know, want to reflect more on the season as a whole. You know, take the opportunity to thank Preza for what he's done from when he came in. Remember being at Crowborough for that Tuesday night, and instantly it was a different team. The atmosphere, the way that we played. So massive thank you to you, Preza, for the season. Gets me really excited thinking about next year, with you having had full pre-season with your coaches, you know, and to bring players back together and to go again next year. Gets you looking optimistic and ready for July when pre-seasons will start. I think season overall, you got to be pleased with it. You know, you look at it as a season of two halves. It's not many teams, as has been said this week, that rebuilds 2-3 times within a 12-month period. So massive credit there to everyone. Next year, it's a difficult league. We know that. We will again have targets on our backs. People will come and they will park the bus. They will make it difficult in front of us. I think there's a lot of positives. You can see that, and as I say, I'm really excited to see the squad that gets assembled for next year, and we go again with genuine optimism. I think it's clear the care and the skill and the passion that Preza and the coaches have, will do that and get us over the line next year. So I think fourth time lucky. You'd be foolish to bet against us come the start of the season, having a squad that's really fit and really competitive and ready to go. So yeah, I think just want to sign off by thanking Preza, the players, the coaches for this year. What you've done since you came in, nothing short of a miracle to get us into the playoffs and to get us as competitive as you did so quickly. So massive thank you to you. Hope to see what next season brings already. And yeah, just up the brickies.
Good afternoon, Breckies. Good afternoon, Brownie. How are you all? Hope you're all okay. It's Thursday today, a few days after the playoff semi-final against Croydon. Unfortunately, a defeat, another playoff defeat, third time in a row. We've got to win one, haven't we, soon, hopefully. I'll tell you what the easiest thing to do is win the league, then we ain't got to do playoffs. How about that? How about that next season? There's a challenge for you all. On to the game, Croydon away. Very good attendance by all the Breckies fans, to be fair. So I don't know everybody's names, but obviously I recognise faces, and there was loads of familiar faces from the Woodstock there, which was great to see. easily outnumbering Croydon, out singing, out supporting them. To be fair, completely. So well done everybody for making the effort to get down there. Game didn't really set alight. To be fair, started first 5 minutes, okay. I think they had an injury. Reece Grant, he went off. Then after that, it was just a stop-start game, stop-start injuries, feigning injuries yet again. Yeah, I think they had two chances, 2 goals in the first. I think they had quite a few chances, but they're chances they took. Good finishes, to be fair. But I think both goals came from referee bad decisions. If I'm being honest, I'm not going to dig him out the whole pod, but he did have a poor game, a very poor game. First goal, I'm sure him and Luke ended up on the floor together. You'd think, especially if the ball's going straight through the middle centre, like defence and stuff, and midfield, you'd think it would stop the game and drop ball it, but no, carried on, and I think that led to the first goal. I'm pretty sure. I've not seen no replays, but I'm sure from what I remember, the second goal was another foul on one of our strikers. Yeah, we didn't get it. They carried on again through the middle, out wide, and then it was another well-taken goal, to be fair. Into the second half, just more poor decisions. I think the referee lost control of the game completely. Linesman didn't help him, assistants didn't help him either, to be fair. I mean, I don't know how Henry Sinai could be pushed so far off the pitch that he was almost with the fans and nothing happened. And then obviously Bochi's penalty claim, which is just ridiculous. When he pointed to the corner, I could not believe it. Even if you look back and look at the defender's reaction when he just lay there because he knew he'd messed up. And also the number 5 covering defender, he looked away completely because he knew, a bit like, oh, what have you done there, mate? But the referee, bizarrely, gave a corner. And I think just loads of little decisions throughout the game, especially second half, it just led to what happened right at the end, the fracas at the end. I heard he was from the league above the referee. I'm not sure if he was or not. Him and these officials were nowhere near strong enough for that game. That being said, that Croydon won. They've got a final to play against Whiteleaf, which will be very hard. For me, I'll be supporting Whiteleaf. I think they played a bit of football. But yeah, season over really. For me, a bit of a mixed season at the beginning. I felt like we never had a settled squad when Ryan was there. I turned up to the first few couple of games and there was like 20 odd people warming up. You didn't know who was starting, who was who really at some points. Like, we had obviously no social media back then, like limited social media, and we never knew, as I said, players just like turning up. So you're lucky he wasn't there, Brownie, to be fair, mate, because you would have been very busy at the beginning of the season. But yeah, we had a few good performances. Croydon at home was good when we was a couple of goals down. Cray Valley, that was good. A couple of good performances, and then as I said, obviously he left. Reece and his coaches come in, trim the squad, and it's just a much settled team. Obviously went on that unbelievable unbeaten run, which got us into where we was really. And I don't know if it was just a long season. Just at the end, the play seemed to like die out a little bit. I'm never ever going to fault their efforts. I think they were done really well this season. Just as I said, to get to the playoffs from where we was, can't give them credit enough, to be fair. And I said after the Croydon game, they looked absolutely gutted. Really, some of them were really upset as well, which showed obviously they cared. Do you know what I mean? So fair play to all the players who contributed during the season. Best parts of the season for me, probably Three Bridges at home. Don't think anyone gave us a chance. We won it. Doesn't matter how we won it. We won it. Very dogged performance from us. Got the goal and sat back. Nothing wrong with that. Broadbridge away. Second half, not the first half was awful. The pitch was awful, to be fair. So I was just surprised the game actually went ahead, if I'm being completely honest. But the second half was fantastic. I had my little daughter with me that game as well, and so I think it's the first half she's actually ever watched them because there was so many goals. She obviously just kept her attention. I said to her, it's not like this all the time, and it hasn't been, to be fair. But yeah, we just made some great memories to be fair with that game. On to next season. Obviously, season's finished. Gaff says he's going to have a couple of weeks off then, start planning. Hopefully, we can keep him. Hopefully, we can keep his coaching team as well. It's all about consistency, isn't it? Keeping the same nucleus of players as well. So, it's not a full change of team. It's not a full change of management. It's consistency and building on what we've done this season. Definitely think we need a few new players in. Defence and midfield, strike, well, all positions to be fair, all parts of the pitch need to be strengthened a little bit. See who goes, see who comes really. Heard Marge's interview last week. I think the club's in a great place. I think they've got a great fan base, which hopefully will get bigger again next season. I think they've got great people behind the scenes. They've got great volunteers. I think we're going. I think the club's heading in the right direction, and that's all credit to everybody there. Obviously, as a non-league club, most of it is voluntary work. People don't get paid to do it, but it's just they do it for the passion. I went up on to the players and the coach, and I was sitting next to someone who'd been following the club for about 30 odd years. When he was a little boy, being taken all over England watching England play, not regional like it is now. And he said to me, it's not always been like this. It's not always been like playoff finishes. And it just goes to show, like, I've only been coming for 3 years. The passion that some of these fans have is fantastic. And I want to be there. I want to be there for the next 30 years myself, to be fair. So I think the club is in a great place. Let's see pre-season, who turns up, what the new names are. Hope we all have a great summer. We've got the World Cup next month. Should give us a bit of more football, hopefully. I don't know what I'm going to do on Saturdays at the moment. As I said, have a good summer, everybody, and I'll see you next season at Woodstock.
Gaffer, it's all over here. Season's over. 2-0 loss in the playoffs to Croydon. How do you assess it?
Pretty much both boxes. I think we've had some really good chances at the early stages of the game. I think in games like this, semi-finals, you've got to take them. But then, I mean, the goals are too easy. Come straight down the middle. One of them, centre half, I think, drove down and no one's really gone to him. So we've just got to be better in both boxes, really.
Yeah, congratulations to Croydon as well. You know, once the second half started, it was they slowed the game down. Players going down everywhere, and you know that's the aim of football. And when we did get going, it did look like we could get something, and there was a shout for a penalty. What did you see of it?
I'll be honest, I don't really know how he's not give it. I don't really say anything about the rest normally, because I think you might as well just stay away from it. But for a game that's that sort of intensity as a semi-final, I don't think he was up to it, if I'm honest.
Yeah, and now it's all over here, and like I said, in the second half, when we did get going, it looked like we could maybe get something, but we didn't get there in the end. Now it's over. What's your reflections on the season?
Look, I've just said in there to the boys, we can sort of hold our heads higher. When we come in, we was 12th. I think a lot of people probably wrote us off, and they've given me everything. And that's all I ask for, is every game, every training session, you give us everything. And I think that second half we sort of threw the kitchen sink at it, and you know we applied pressure, and on another day you probably come away with either a goal at least or a result.
Over 700 people here tonight it's one of their biggest crowds again. Most of them Brickies, and again, third year in a row, the Brickies are packed out wherever they are, and unfortunately it's the hurdle that they can't get past at the minute.
Yeah, no, look, the fans are brilliant as always. They're through snow, do you know what I mean, raining, whatever, they come in their numbers and they're loud and they're proud. And they've been brilliant since we've come in, so obviously gutted for them because we couldn't get over the line again, and we'll just have to sit down, reassess it and go again next year.
That was the last question. You know, is it a time just take a little rest for a couple of weeks and then get straight back on it, get the phone ringing and start building for next year, build a title challenge?
Yeah, well, I don't want a phone call for at least 2 weeks, so yeah, no, look, we'll go into it again, and that's all you can do. Look, the game's gone. unfortunately we couldn't get over the line today, but we go again next year.
That's all from me. Thank you very much, and thank you to the fans.
Thank you to the fans, yeah, very much so.